my name is Dr. Judy Shaw, and I am CEO of Shaw Medical Travel Consultants. And today we're going to discuss how to take a gap year and what the significance of an adult gap year is. And we have the pleasure of talking to Cali O'Connor, who is a career break coach. And I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Cali, and she can expound as she feels the need. She helps professionals break free of burnout by creating intentional career breaks filled with adventure and purpose. She's a former chemical and biomolecular engineer who left the hustle and the grind of the oil and gas industry for her own 2.5-year career break spent traveling around the world. She successfully transitioned back into corporate world, landing numerous interviews and 3 job offers, ultimately changing industries completely. Later, she embarked on a second career break, which culminated in the birth of her coaching business. So as an expert career break coach, she knows what it takes to design and execute a purposeful, fulfilling career break that will change your life forever. Well, I'm excited just about listening to that without even any further conversation. That's really exciting to me. So before we get started, Cali, is there anything you want to add to that?
That just about covers it. But I mean, from my own personal experience, the time that I've taken away from the corporate world has been the most restorative and fulfilling times of my life. So I'm really excited to talk more about it.
All right. Well, let's get started then. So let's just start with basics. So let's just explain what is an adult gap year.
Sure. So typically when we hear the term gap year, we think of high school students or college students who have just graduated and they're choosing to embark on probably some world travel before they take the next stage in their life, whether that be college or a corporate job. So they're around like 18 to 22 years old, gallivanting around the globe, living it up before they kind of have those adult responsibilities. An adult gap year, and it doesn't have to be a year, is for professionals, those of us who have already worked in industry and are getting to a point where we need that break. So it's basically just making a conscious exit from the workforce for a period of time to travel or to work on some personal project.
Awesome. What do people normally do in this gap year? They travel? Is it sort of a breath of fresh air and I'm just gonna, or is there some purposeful or what's the design of this gap year usually?
Right. So, I mean, everyone's so different. A lot of people choose to travel because, I mean, I'm US based and vacation time at corporate jobs in the US is lacking, quite frankly. So if you like travel and you want to see so many things in the world like I did, if you start doing the math, it's not possible to see all of those things in your lifetime if you're continuing to work continuously until you retire. And of course, nothing's guaranteed. Who knows what shape you're going to be in come retirement, if you're still going to have the stamina to go travel around the world the way you might have. So travel is a common, popular thing when people have like a continuous amount of time off, they want to see the world. But it doesn't just have to be travel. Sometimes people pursue their own passion projects, like writing a book, finally having the time to sit down and get some words in, or learning a new skill, or starting their own business, or just really taking that time and breath of fresh air to go inward and rediscover themselves, because we tend to get so caught up in the day-to-day of our job. Number one priority oftentimes. So when we have a chance to step away from that, the world of possibilities is open.
Awesome. So I'm going to segue on that. So, aside from the fact that we're now in the midst of COVID and there's just a lot of burnout, there's a lot of mental we can say illness, but maybe it's not necessarily to that degree. Maybe we're just too tired, fatigued, and we just want a break. Or so maybe that's it. Or maybe it was even before COVID. I just got tired of my job, and I just, I don't have a purpose, and I don't know where I'm going. So what are, what have you seen, either from your personal experience or maybe others that you coached? What do you tell them the benefits are from a personal perspective? What did you get out of this? You're different, Cali 2.0 versus Cali 1.0. I mean, how has this changed your life compared to whatever your experiences were before?
Sure. So I like this question, and I like that you said Cali 2.0, because after my second break, I would say I'm on Cali 3.0, because there was a stark difference in the way that I traveled the first time I did it and the second time. So first of all, getting out of a toxic or stressful work environment is so important for your mental health, but it is only one part of the puzzle. Ultimately, if you have the intention of returning to the workforce and you haven't taken that time to do some inner work, you're returning as a pretty similar version of yourself to a different environment. And there are going to be those stressors, and there's going to be the burnout and things, and you're probably going to react a similar way you did the first time. And so, yes, like you said, you can see the world. Yes, you're out of that stressful environment, but now you finally have the time and the space to do some of that inner work, learn skills needed to cope with stress and burnout in a healthier way, because that's not something we're taught in school. That's not something you inherently know how to do. We kind of just get thrown into these situations and we live them day to day, and we get sucked into it, and it becomes the focus of our world. And so breaking away from that gives us the space and the perspective, but we also have to take initiative to go inward, to really delve deep into how we can be different when we do return to the real world. So for my first career break, it opened my mind like so much. I saw so much of the world, but personally, I was traveling the same way I worked. I was going fast. I wanted to accomplish as much as possible. And I started to get tired and burnt out while traveling, which is like exactly the opposite of the point. And so it took that for me to realize, like, whoa, I need to slow down a little bit. Like, I'm here to enjoy this. I'm trying to replenish my energy. I'm trying to refocus on my mental health. And it took almost getting burnt out from travel for me to realize that, and to slow down and to take steps towards really recovering that achiever mindset that I have in the workplace, and I apparently have my entire life. So it was a very
awesome.
Reflective experience for me.
So maybe, so what I understand you saying is really, if this is the fact that I'm burnt out and I'm tired and I just don't like what I'm doing anymore, for whatever my reasons are, and I want to take this break, for it to be helpful and beneficial, I need to have some purpose, and maybe I need to sort of sit down and figure out, okay, so what do I need help with? What do I need to build? What do I need to rebuild? Like you said, what skills do I need, to handle myself in, my 2.0 or my 3.0 version. And so, during whether it be travel, like you said, or whether it be stepping aside and writing a book, or whether it be whatever other avenue I want to go down, somehow I want to figure out what is it I want to accomplish. And so the gap that I'm taking needs to help me to achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. So I need to sort of set a goal first. Don't just sort of get off into the whole world.
Exactly. So that's what I tell my clients. Like, if this is something you want to do, you need to have a why and you need to have a goal. so that you don't come to the end of this time and be like, what happened? Where did all that time go? What have I accomplished? And it's really important, like whether you choose to re-enter the corporate world, because then you're going to be able to present yourself as someone who's really accomplished something during this time, or whether you're going to take another path. If you've started your own business, like it's still important that you are using this time wisely. So, I mean, recovery is important. Maybe you're not going to take a whole week and just sleep and recover a little bit, but you don't want your whole gap year to turn into a giant nap.
Wow, that's a great point. So let me ask you, so just suppose that, okay, so I take my gap year and now I'm going to re-enter the corporate world, that's one angle. Have you found, I mean, you did that, you took a year or you took some time and then you re-entered. Have you found that employers are receptive to this kind of thing, number one? And the second question is there have you been able to offer to an employer anything from a benefit standpoint that maybe from a perspective standpoint that maybe you weren't able to offer in the beginning, aside of credentials and qualifications, just from a personal growth? Do you feel that there was something that you were able to add value to an employer, maybe that someone with your same credentials possibly could not have, maybe?
Absolutely. Like I attribute my ability to transition industries solely to my gap years traveling. So, I mean, my background is engineering, and the job I eventually accepted was in international education. And I worked in English language schools. So international students who want to come to the US and Canada to learn English. And had I not spent all that time traveling, had I not had all of those experiences with international people, like that made me a standout candidate for my employer. They loved that I traveled so much. They loved that I had that background and all of those interactions. And at this workplace, we had students coming from over 50 different countries, and I had visited probably half of them. So like I already had international experience with people from those countries, and it made me an ideal candidate for the position.
Fabulous. And maybe there's some cultural, cultural awareness that goes with that as well. I mean, we live in a very international world. Whether you're in the United States, whether you're wherever, there are people who are traveling for work, aside from just pleasure. And so it would seem to me that ability to adapt from a cultural standpoint should be really a positive point. You think?
Absolutely. And like there are so many factors that you can pull from a year traveling that you can use to sell yourself when trying to re-enter the workforce. So ultimately, like if you feel like this was the best thing you ever done, if you come into an interview with that energy, the hiring manager is going to pick up on it. But if you show up being like, oh my gosh, they're going to see I have a gap in my resume, I've just been traveling for a year, oh no, like what are they going to think of me? Then that's a totally different energy, and they're going to pick up on that negativity. So for me, like coming in confidently, I was so proud of what I accomplished over those years. I saw so much, I really learned so much, I experienced so much, and like from that side of things, like I was a whole new person, and I was so excited to share that with anyone who listened. And because of that, like people were so into it, they wanted to hear more. The only questions I got asked about was like, what was your favorite country? Nothing like you weren't working for those years. Like nobody cared about that.
Right. Wow. Awesome. And from a risk standpoint and from a con standpoint, I'm sure people are going to be asking, and we're talking about traveling, but I mean, there are other ways to take gap. And so I'm going to ask that in a minute, but as it relates to the issue of traveling, I'm sure people will be asking, geez, that sounds exciting, but I don't have that kind of bank account. Okay. And I have all these obligations. I have you know, all these things I have to do. Of course, that adds to the burnout, mind you.
Mhm.
But so what's your, how do you, what's your recommendation to that, Sam?
Yeah,
For that?
you hit the nail on the head. Like, I so often hear people say, like, I wish I could do what you do, but, and two things. Like, one, if you truly want it, like if this is your highest priority, all of those little factors, the logistical things, the money, that's all figure outable. We can overcome that very easily with proper planning. So a lot of times, I mean, it's a scary, scary step. So as humans, we tend to use those logistical factors as excuses to hold ourselves back from what we actually want to do. And once we can recognize that, then that's when we can overcome those things. And secondly, to travel internationally, there are so many countries in the world that are so much more affordable to travel in than to live in the United States, for example. So if you are open to a budget-friendly lifestyle, ultimately with proper planning, you can just save a small amount and travel for really cheap, get all of these incredible experiences. Ultimately, spending money on travel is an investment in yourself. It's like would you invest in yourself to go to college? I imagine a lot of people did. And that costs way more than traveling around the world for a year. So it's a different type of investment. And if we start looking at it that way, then maybe it's not as difficult to stomach like how much it costs, or that you're just spending money. It's an investment.
Absolutely. Wow, great. So let's just say, for example, you know, maybe I don't really want to travel the world. Maybe I want to work on a book, or maybe I want to work on some other kind of project. Any ideas, any suggestions there? How, you know, I mean, are there other things that I need to put in place? Because again, you know, I want to take a break. I want to be relieved, but now I'm going to do on a book, and then that's a whole nother stress, you know, or maybe I'm going to embark on some other side thing that I wanted to do. That may a whole nother stress. So at the end of the day, maybe I didn't accomplish, maybe I may not accomplish whatever goal I had, or did I even set a goal? I mean, what's your, how do you see that as a little different approach?
Definitely. So yeah, setting the goal first is important. And then also setting boundaries around the goal. So we as people tend to go like one of two ways, like procrastinate like crazy, or like all in burnout, like work so hard that our eyeballs start bleeding and it's just so exhausting. And then something that was supposed to be enjoyable is no longer enjoyable because you've burnt yourself out doing it. So with that in mind, if you're going to a project, set guidelines and boundaries for yourself. If you're not working in order to work on like this project, you've freed up so much time in your day. There's no need to be working 12 hours a day on this project. Like set a limit that you're going to stop. You will never work later than 5 p.m. or set a limit that you won't set an alarm clock in the morning, things like that. And if you tend to be on the procrastination side of things, the way I like to operate in my business is that each morning I set a time block, and I'm like, from 8 a.m. until noon, I pick one thing each day that I'm going to do, and I don't touch my phone, and I don't do anything else until that one thing is done. And so then once that's accomplished, I can then choose to go into my to-do list and do other things. Some days I might feel too tired and I don't. Other days I have all sorts of energy. I'm like, yeah, let's knock some things out. But just a little bit of structure goes a long way in recognizing if you are more of a procrastinator or more of someone who's likely to burn yourself out.
Great. And so, boy, this is great. I think this is such good information. So tell me what you do and how you, if someone says, yeah, I want to do this, but I just don't know how. I don't know what my first step is. I mean, how do I approach my employer and say, do I just say, okay, I want out? You know, I mean, because maybe I want to come back to the employer, but I want to leave on a good foot, you know, and I want to be impressive. So, I mean, how do you coach people? Why does someone, first of all, why does someone need a coach? And
Yeah.
how is a coach going to help me to operationalize my dream or my goal?
So there's a few different reasons, and because everyone's different, like some reasons apply to some people more than others. One is that fear-based accountability. You're like, I want to do this, I want to do this, but you go and go and go, and like it just never happens. I would like to do this someday. But having a coach, that's your accountability. If you really want this, get someone on board who's going to make sure it happens for you. And so we work together to come over those fears. Why are you standing in your own way? And I mean, not only does it help you to get through those blocks and embark on this career break to travel or do whatever, that's going to serve you for the rest of your life if you can get to the bottom of why you're standing in your own way. Additionally, the logistical things that we tend to use as excuses, I've been there. And yeah, I can help guide you through all of those processes. And the why, like setting up the why and having a proper goal. So like I said, when I first started my career break, I was all over the place. I was traveling so fast. I like flew to South America and I only stayed for a few weeks. And then I flew from Brazil to Vietnam, the long way over Europe and all of these things. And I just kept moving, moving, moving. I don't want that to happen to anyone else. It was so exhausting. I to call it intentional career breaks because I think that's something that maybe people don't realize, that it needs to be intentional. You feel these burnt out feelings at work and you know you need to leave and you know you want to travel. But like you can actually make this period of your life so impactful. You can actually heal the burnout as opposed to just step away from it, learn how to cope better, learn how to plan an itinerary that's going to serve you and serve whatever your goals might be for the future. We talk about that. Maybe you want to go back to work in a different industry. Maybe you want to go back to the same industry. Maybe you don't want to go back at all. So it just helps to have the support and accountability of a coach to ask those questions, brainstorm those ideas, and get to the goal that you're hoping to achieve.
Sort of helps you to keep you on track.
Absolutely.
And it helps you to think of things maybe that you hadn't thought about.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's great. So, last question. So, we're in the midst of COVID, even though it looks like we may be on the tail end, which may last a while. The tail may still last some time. And who knows what the new normal is going to be, right? We don't really know what that is. But we do have a lot of frontline workers. They don't necessarily have to be doctors and nurses. There's all kinds of folks who are on the front line. And geez, again, going through a lot of PTSD, going through a lot of issues. So do you go through different options that someone may have, at their disposal to just take that calculated break? And so you work with folks to help them figure out, like you mentioned, figure out their finances, or maybe someone comes and says, you know what, I just need a break. I just have no idea what to do. All I know is I need out. Right? So how do you help me figure out what out I need?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is there some journaling? Is there some, looking into myself? I mean, all I know is I want out. I don't know how, what, where, but I just know I want out.
Exactly. So yeah, that's why I work with people one-on-one, because everyone's so different. And I love that if somebody says I want out, then that's a decision, and that's awesome. And that sets us off on the right foot to figure out what is next. And so, yeah, work together depending on the person. Like definitely journaling. I personally love and facilitate breath work. I don't know if you're familiar or if I should go into more depth, but it's really just intention, like active meditation, breathing, lying down. And oftentimes it takes you outside of your thinking brain and just settles that monkey mind and things come to you. It tends to release anxiety. It tends to bring in ideas. And I love that as a modality.
And I love that.
Yeah.
That you're saying that.
So, and then just exercises. So, I mean, ultimately, a person might say, I don't know what I want, but that's not true. They're the only one who knows what they want. I don't know what you want. You do know what you want, but you don't know that you know. So that's how we work together to kind of get to the bottom of it. And it's through conversations, it's through exercises, it's through journaling and breath work, meditation. It's all inside. We just need to kind of bring it to the surface.
Excellent. You know, funny, I'm glad you mentioned that because we actually have some other videos on our website about, you know, mantra medication, and we're getting ready to interview somebody on yoga and Ayurveda. So there's all these different types. So that's huge. And I think you're onto something there. You know, is there, you know, we're getting ready to close, but this has really been interesting for me. You've shared so much information. Do you have any closing comments?
Yes, my closing comment is, like, we as humans tend to live life so scared, and ultimately life is so short and we only get one shot. So if you're having a desire to pursue something, whatever it might be, that desire is meant for you and it's worth pursuing. And if it's something you really, really want to achieve, then don't hesitate to go for it. Don't hesitate to seek help to help you reach that goal. Because I think at the end of the day, like, it's much worse to have the regret of never trying. And so ultimately, we don't want to just live our lives regretting things that we were afraid to try. So, I mean, that's always something I consider when I'm kind of get in my own head about, like, oh, I should do this, I should do that. But at the end of the road, none of that matters.
I like that as a closing comment. That is so awesome. I'm going to ask you, since you mentioned, do you have any regrets?
No, I don't. I have lessons. I have things I would have done differently, but it's not regrets because I learned from them and it got me to where I am now. So,
love that. Okay, Cali, this has been excellent. I am so happy you gave us the time to have this conversation. So this is Dr. Shaw with Shaw Medical Travel Consultants, and I'm interviewing Cali O'Connor. On the screen, there's information of how to contact her. And if you like this video, click, give us a like, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please go to Cali's website and check out all the information that she's got, and give her a call. It could be a life-changing opportunity. All right. So Cali, thank you again. Thank you for being a part of our conversation and offering us this fabulous information.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you everybody for tuning in.